Hello, Year 3 and Year 4. Welcome back to English Lessons Live with me, Mr. Phillips. I hope you're doing all right. Good to see you again. It is Wednesday the 20th, which means it's time for some more writing lessons. So, before we get into that, should we jump straight into our SPAG starter for today? We have a little table here, and it says, tick one box in each row to show whether the sentence is a question or a command. So are each of these a question or a command? And it's left the punctuation out so that it doesn't help you with this. So each of these, is it a question? Are you asking for information? Or is it a command? Are you instructing someone to do something? So here we go. Do your stretches before you exercise? Do you prefer tennis or cricket? Do the boys always go running in the morning? Take some water with you to football practice. Okay, one more time. Do your stretches before you exercise? Is that a question or is that a command? Do you prefer tennis or cricket? Is that a question or a command? Do the boys always go running in the morning? Is that a question or a command? And do take some water with you to football practice? Is that a question or a command? Can you pause the video there and just write 1, 2, 3, and 4. Just write number 1, I think it's this. Number 2, I think it's this. Number 3, I think it's this. Number 4, I think it's this. Okay, that's probably the easiest way to set it out. Pause the video there. Off you go. Can you complete that SPAG starter for me now? Off you go. Okay, so now you should have each statement and you should be able to tell me if you think it's a question or if you think it is a command. I'm going to make my table a little bit easier to write in so I can kind of mirror what you would have. So, do your stretches before you exercise. Is that asking someone for information or is that telling someone to do something? Do your stretches before you exercise. Well, that is someone telling you to do something, isn't it? Do your stretches before you exercise. Complete your stretches before you exercise. It's not asking for something, is it? So that is a command. Next one. Do you prefer tennis or cricket? Is that asking something for information or is that telling you to do something? Do you prefer tennis or cricket? That's not telling you to do anything, is it? It's saying, do you prefer is a question, not a command. So do you prefer tennis or cricket? It's an option, it's a question. Do the boys always go running in the morning? Is that telling you to do something or is that asking for information? Do the boys always go running in the morning? Well, it's asking you for information, isn't it? It is a question. And last one, do take some water with you to football practice. Do take some water with you to football practice. Is that asking for information or is that telling you to do something? It is telling you to do something. It's take some water with you. Do take some water with you to football practice. Okay? So we have command, question, question, and command. And obviously it's a little bit tricky because they all start with do, which we normally associate with being a question word. But here we can see that it can also be an imperative verb to start off a command. Okay? Lovely. Hopefully that all went all right for you. Let's have a look. Should recognise these friendly guys. Hold on a minute. That's not right. That's not right. I just noticed what it says on the. This isn't right here. We're not doing positive. We're doing negative intent today. So I'm about to say you should recognise these characters from Monday, because what we're doing is we're going to carry on writing character descriptions. But today we're doing it with negative intent. So on Monday, we had to go at writing character descriptions with positive intent and trying to create positive character descriptions that made our audience feel happy and good and represented our characters in positive ways. Today, we're doing the opposite and we're going to make all the descriptions sound negative. Okay, should we go back to our writing from Monday and just recap over that and see how we did? So we picked the zombie, didn't we, from our model, because we were doing, we were giving ourselves a challenge, weren't we, to see if we could describe the most negative character with positive intent. Oh, before I carry on, some amazing character descriptions have been sent to me. Absolutely incredible. Well done. If you've sent your character description to me, it was bravo, bravo. They were absolutely brilliant. Some of them were twice as good as mine, which is fantastic. So let's have a little look at the positive intent character descriptions we wrote last time. His most notable feature was his emerald green skin, which, although he was dead, was smooth to the touch and extremely well cared for. Scattered across his dainty nose was a collection of darker coloured freckles, making him look like a sweet young child. Within his lovely smile were 2 rows of perfect teeth, shimmering and glinting in the sunlight. If you got close enough, you would smell a fresh, minty aroma coming from his mouth, which was thanks to his strict dental routine. So last time we had to use a lot of different structures. We were using multiple sentences to each description point, weren't we? We weren't just saying one thing and then moving on. We were saying a couple of things, and then we were using our imagination and creating things to describe beyond the picture. We were also trying to vary which of these we use: smell, sound, sight, touch, taste, think, dialogue, movement, or feelings. Yeah, by varying those a little bit, we just create something that's more engaging for our audience. So today we're going to write one with negative intent. So I think I'm going to go. I think I'm going to go for the unicorn. I think there's some help there. The fact that his eyebrows are like that means that I can probably come up with some good negative things. But generally, unicorns are associated with, happiness. So I think it might be quite fun to write a negative intent and make him like a villain, okay, and try and make him sound grotesque, okay? So we start off, as we always do, with basic sentences. Let's get a structure in place and a plan in place. What things am I going to describe? So, well, I need to start with his rainbow hair. So he has rainbow hair. There you go, that's one basic sentence. He has rainbow hair. That's one thing to describe. I'm also going to describe he has hooves. These hooves might be quite good to describe. I should probably. I'm not going to describe his muscles actually. I'm going to describe his eyebrows. He has eyebrows because his eyebrows are very similar to my eyebrows, aren't they? They're quite big. Good for doing that look when people aren't listening. What are you doing? He's got good teacher eyebrows there. So I might describe his eyebrows. Okay, lovely. So now I've got the basic sentences. Let's start with rainbow hair. Actually, I'm going to start with hooves because I've got an idea for hooves already. It's just and this might happen to you. It's the word encrusted with dirt is just a phrase that just flickered into my mind as I was speaking then, and in my head I was like, oh, don't forget that. I was like, right, I'll just write it down, and that's what I do when I'm writing. I think it's tough in school because you guys don't really have, unless you've got a whiteboard in front of you, you don't have somewhere to write down little phrases or little ideas that come to your head. That's definitely what you should do. If you are thinking about what you're going to write and you have an idea that maybe can't be used right then, but can be used later on, quickly scribble it down. I'll show you. This is my writing notepad, and it is full of just random scribbly thoughts and ideas. None of them are of anything particular. It's just full of loads of random thoughts and just kind of like ideas and sparks and things that I might use later on. So definitely do that. So I've written encrusted with dirt just because I know I might come back to that later. So let's do hooves first. So I'm thinking that I could maybe describe them as, encrusted with dirt, worn down, splintered, fractured, dull, and those kind of. I'm trying to picture like a horse that's really old, who's maybe not been looked after properly. So I suppose it's how do I start this one now? I want to try and avoid at the bottom of his feet because that's kind of obvious. I might kind of mask it with a bit of action and kind of have my character doing something, which means that I can describe that feature a little bit easier. It's what I described. It was what I called the year sixes, putting your character in motion, which allows you to describe them a little bit easier. So furiously, it's almost like writing it. It's almost like putting it into story mode slightly, rather than having a static character description. You're like, right, let's begin the story slightly so that I can pull some description. Furiously, he clattered, so I want him to be banging his hoof against the floor in frustration, because then I can describe the hoof. Do you see how that works? He clattered his hooves against the cold, stable floor. Now, I'm not going to spend forever on that line, because that's not part of my character description. That's just like a little linking sentence which gets my character ready for description. Furiously, he clattered his hooves against the cold, stable floor. And then I might use encrusted with dirt as my opening. Encrusted with dirt. The metal rings. Actually, no. I'm gonna start with the metal rings, I think. Oh no, actually, once. That's what it used to be like. Once gleaming and cared for, the metal rings on his. I'm going to say there, because I don't want to say hooves again, really. I don't want to say the metal rings on his hooves. I might come back to that. Once gleaming and cared for, they were now encrusted with dirt from years of mistreatment. Remember, I'm trying to build negative intent. Everything I'm doing is trying to make a bad picture for the audience. Furiously, he clattered his hooves against the cold, stable floor. Once gleaming and cared for, they were now encrusted with dirt from years of maltreatment and had lost their natural. And were now dull and scuffed. Okay, I think there's a few things I need to go back and change, a few repetitions. I can see there were now in there a few times. Furiously, he clattered his hooves against the cold, stable floor. Once gleaming, cared for, I'm going to change care for, I'm going to say well groomed. Ooh, I can't really say well groomed actually. Well maintained, that because you can't really groom hoof. But maintained is okay. Once gleaming and well maintained. Again, I think they, while I don't want to repeat hooves again, I think they is a bit vague. Still, I think they might be like, well, who's encrusted with dirt? I don't think they would necessarily know that I was talking about the hooves, even though I alluded to it here. The unicorn's metal shoes. Actually, do it. Do unicorns wear? I suppose. Mr. Phillips asking, do unicorns wear horseshoes? Okay. I think actually my problem is that I've kind of cornered myself by using hooves here. So, once gleaming, the unicorn's hooves were now encrusted with dirt from years of mistreatment. And then I can move dull and scuffed there. Scuffed hooves. Once gleaming and well maintained, the unicorn's dull, scuffed hooves were now encrusted with dirt from years of mistreatment, which I feel like I can move that and get the clattered hooves on there. We'll move from years of mistreatment. You're seeing a real piece of writing dissection going on here. We are now encrusted with dirt, which, because I was going to use a relative clause, but the relative clause has to come directly after the thing that you're talking about, and I wanted to say that the bits of dirt flecked off, and I have to say that directly after the word dirt. I can't wait until after another phrase, because then it doesn't link as well. Scuffed hooves were now encrusted with dirt, which flicked off violently as he clattered his feet furiously against the cold, stable floor. Whoa. Okay, what you just see me do there is I couldn't get it to work in the order that I put it in, but I knew I wanted all the information I'd written, just had to figure out the order. So move everything around and how it fits the best. So once gleaming and well maintained, the unicorn's dull, scuffed hooves were now encrusted with dirt, which flicked off violently as he clattered his feet furiously against the cold, stable floor. Brilliant. And then I was left with oh no, not that phrase. I was left with the phrase from years of mistreatment, which I could probably use as my next opener. From years of mistreatment. So I now need to describe something else about the hooves. So there, I put loads in. I've used loads of my good ideas. It's scuffed, it's dull, encrusted with dirt. So something else. I'm actually saying after years of mistreatment, the pitiful creature found it difficult to place any substantial weight. After years of mistreatment, because I want to say he can't really put weight on his hooves. I'm struggling because I don't want to say hooves all the time. That's one of the really difficult things about character description, not repeating the same basic word or saying, oh, it's this and this and this. After years of mistreatment, the pitiful creature found it difficult to hold any weight on their, I don't want to say hooves, they describe them creatively on their swollen, should we go a bit gory? On the swollen, blistered, I think a synonym is the hoops. After years of mistreatment, the pitiful creature found it difficult to hold any substantial weight on the swollen, blistered. This is where you end up throwing in a really stupid phrase like ends of his legs, which just is being vague for no purpose. After years of mistreatment, the pitiful creature found it difficult to hold any substantial weight on the swollen, blistered. I'm going to say hooves and see if I can. Number one, I'll see if it sounds awful, because I only said hooves there, and I'll just see if I can change it. Now, I know it seems like I'm obsessing over such a tiny detail, but this is what you need to be doing. You need to be writing, going, does this work? Does this description flow? Once gleaming and well maintained, the unicorn's dull, scuffed hooves were now encrusted with dirt, which flicked off violently as he clattered his feet furiously against the cold, stable floor. After years of mistreatment, the pitiful creature found it difficult to hold any substantial weight on the swollen, blistered hooves. It's okay. I just don't want to say hooves. There we go. I just changed the original hooves for horseshoes. Once gleaming and well maintained, the unicorn's dull, scuffed horseshoes were now encrusted with dirt, which flicked off violently as he clattered his feet furiously against the cold, stable floor. After years of mistreatment, the pitiful creature found it difficult to hold any substantial weight on his swollen, blistered hooves. I wrote these with Year 6 on Monday. It was a sentence that I could not at all figure out. Now, I have actually hit the mark of how long the lessons normally are, but I've spent the entire time on this sentence, so I am going to do one more. I'm going to keep going. Okay, rainbow hair. Whew. Now, I know for a fact I can pull some of the inspiration that we did with wolves in the wall to this one, okay? So I'm going to say rainbow. How do I start? Yes, because I can start with a noun this time because I had a subordinate conjunction there. Rainbow hair stuck. Because I was going to say we don't want flowed, we don't want draped or all these nice words. We want like stuck. or fused or something like that. So it has a bit of negative intent to it. Rainbow hair stuck in patches. I'm gonna have that. I'm gonna have his patchy hair protruded in patches from his from the back of his head. Rainbow hair protruded in patches from the back of his head. I want to put a relative clause in here about how it's not the same colour. I'm going to avoid once because I've done a bit of once there. Rainbow hair now muted in colour. No longer dazzling. No longer dazzling and beautiful, but muted and lifeless. Yes, that's good. Rainbow hair, no longer dazzling and beautiful, but muted and lifeless, protruded in patches from the back of his head. It hung. I could compare it to like dead branches on a tree. It hung limply like dead branches from a tree. I'm gonna put that in parentheses. I'm actually going to use some dashes for parentheses there to show its quick side thought. It hung limply like dead branches from a tree in tattered. I kind of want it to be in tattered. We've said clumps, haven't we? No, we haven't. In tattered clumps. I want to say matted. Yeah, in matted clumps, full of dirt and soaked with rainwater. I'm glad that one came a little bit more naturally than the last one. So that was one I just kind of wrote without going back and checking it. So I need to go all the way back now and make sure I'm happy with everything. Rainbow hair, no longer dazzling and beautiful, but muted and lifeless, protruded in patches from the back of his head. It hung limply, like dead branches from a tree, in matted clumps full of dirt and soaked with rainwater. Great. Now what I've used there is I've used a lot of parentheses. But what you remember with parentheses is I should be able to take it out. I should still be able to make sense. So that, take it out. Rainbow hair protruding in patches from the back of his head. That works. And then I added in that little bit of detail about the rainbow hair. Same like this one here. I should be able to take out the parenthesis and it should be able to make sense. It hung limply in matted clumps full of dirt and soaked with rainwater. Yep, perfect. Add the parenthesis back in. Okay, there we go. I've had a bit of a morning struggling getting that out, but hopefully you guys will find it a little bit easier. So today, same as last Monday, I want you to try and write a character description. It can be for the same character or for a different character, but I want you to do it with negative intent. Just like I've done, I want you to create negative images for your audience. I will see you tomorrow, Year 3 and Year 4, for more reading lessons. Bye, guys.